Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. No religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world will live as one.
The life of John Lennon. John Lennon was a legendary musician, songwriter, artist, and activist. He rose to fame as one of the founding members of the iconic band, the Beatles, and went on to have a successful solo career. His music, art, and activism continue to inspire people all over the world, even decades after his tragic death. John Lennon was born on October 9, 1940, in Liverpool, England. He was the firstborn child of Alfred Lennon and Julia Stanley, who were both working-class parents. His father was a seaman, and his mother worked as a waitress. John's parents separated when he was just 3 years old, and he was raised by his Aunt Mimi and Uncle George, who were strict but provided him with a stable home. As a child, John was known to be a troublemaker and often got into fights. However, he also showed a talent for drawing and writing, which he inherited from his mother. He received his first guitar at the age of 15, which sparked his interest in music. He formed a skiffle band with some friends and began performing at local venues. In 1957, John met Paul McCartney, and together they formed a band called the Quarrymen, which later evolved into the Beatles. The band went through several changes in the lineup, and by 1960, they had settled on John, Paul, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. The Beatles gained popularity in Liverpool and eventually landed a recording contract with EMI in 1962. The Beatles' music was a blend of rock and roll, pop, and other genres, which appealed to a wide audience. With John as the lead vocalist and songwriter, the band gained international fame and became one of the most influential bands in the history of music. Their songs, such as Love Love Me Do, She Loves You, and I Wanna Hold Your Hand, topped the charts and broke records. In 1969, the Beatles disbanded, and John embarked on a solo career. He released his first solo album, John Lennon, Plastic Ono Band, which was a raw and emotional record that showcased his personal struggles and reflections. The album was a commercial and critical success, and it established John as a solo artist. He continued to release solo albums, including Imagine, which became his most successful album. The title track, Imagine, became an anthem for peace and is still considered one of the greatest songs of all time. John's music was not only entertaining, but it also carried powerful messages of love, peace, and social justice. Activism. John was not just a talented musician, but also an outspoken activist. He used his platform and celebrity status to raise awareness and advocate for various causes. He and his wife, Yoko Ono, were known for their peaceful protests against the Vietnam War, and they famously staged a bed-in for peace in 1969. John's activism was not limited to just one cause. He supported the fight for civil rights, women's rights, and world peace. In 1971, he released the song Power to the People, which became an anthem for the anti-war movement. He also used his music to address social and political issues, such as poverty and racism. Personal life. John was married twice, first to Cynthia Powell in 1962, with whom he had a son, Julian. They divorced in 1968, and John married Yoko Ono the same year. John and Yoko had a unique and intense relationship, and they often collaborated on music, art, and activism. In 1975, John and Yoko separated, and John entered a period of self-reflection and introspection. During this time, he focused on raising his son, Sean, and spent time away from the public eye. However, he returned to the music scene in 1980 with the release of the album Double Fantasy. Tragically, just a few weeks after the album's release, John was shot and killed outside his apartment building in New York City on December 8, 1980. His death shocked the world. Millions mourned the loss of a beloved musician, artist, and activist. Legacy. John Lennon's impact on the world of music and art is undeniable. His music with the Beatles and as a solo artist continues to influence and inspire new generations. His messages of peace, love, and equality still resonate with people all over the world. In his short 40 years of life, John left a lasting legacy, not just through his music and art, but also through his activism. He used his voice to speak out against injustice and promote positive change. He will always be remembered as a visionary, a rebel, and a true icon of the 20th century. As he famously said, "Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one."